Am I the a-hole for tearing my family apart after exposing my husband's affair with my mother? I've rewritten this 1,000 times and deleted it every single time because the words feel like poison on the screen. I'm not looking for validation. I'm not even sure I deserve sympathy. I just need to scream into the void because I am unraveling at the seams. This isn't some soap opera fantasy. It's my real life, and every day feels like a slow-motion car crash I can't stop. Reliving. I, 32F, have been married to Kyle, 34M, for almost 9 years. We were high school sweethearts, then college partners, then husband and wife. Everyone called us that couple. The ones who made it, who beat the odds, who still held hands at dinner. We had the kind of relationship people envied. At least, that's what I thought. Until the day I found out the man I had built my entire adult life with had been cheating on me for years, with my own mother. Yes, you read that right. My mother. My mother, 54F, let's call her Diane, has always been complicated, beautiful, magnetic, manipulative. The kind of woman who walks into a room and instantly commands all the attention. She was never the nurturing type. She wasn't physically abusive, but emotionally, she drained people like a vampire. Growing up, I knew I had to earn her affection with accomplishments, perfect grades, perfect weight, perfect posture. If I cried, she mocked me. If I succeeded, she found a way to one-up me. But she was still my mom. I wanted her love so badly that I mistook her backhanded compliments for pride. Kyle met her when we were 19. She was charming at first, overly complimentary, calling him handsome and well-raised. I remember thinking it was sweet how well they got along. When we got married, she helped plan the wedding, picked out the venue, even walked me through my first dance because my dad had passed away the year before. I used to thank her for being there. I feel sick now, just remembering it. The signs were always there in hindsight. When Kyle and I would fight over money, intimacy, fertility struggles, he'd always go out to clear his head. Later, I'd find out from my sister, 26F, that he'd been spotted at my mom's condo more than once. They always had some excuse. He needed advice, or he brought her groceries, or she needed help setting up her Wi-Fi. I was naive. I wanted to believe the best. I'd grown up gaslighting myself into thinking my mother was incapable of cruelty. Kyle knew this. He used it. About 5 months ago, everything imploded. I'd been feeling distant from Kyle. Something cold had settled between us like a fog. He stopped kissing me in the mornings. Our sex life died. He'd lock his phone around me, and when I asked if he was cheating, he looked offended, like I had broken something sacred. I started therapy, thinking maybe I was projecting trauma or stress from my job. My therapist encouraged me to journal my suspicions. I started keeping a timeline. The dates didn't add up. His nights out coincided with weekends my mother was too busy to take my calls. I felt insane, so I did something I swore I'd never do. I checked his texts while he was asleep. I still wish I hadn't. There were messages, hundreds of them, spanning years. Code names, nicknames, erotic photos, promises, whole paragraphs where he told her he loved her more than he thought possible, and how being with her felt like coming home. The worst part? They mocked me. They laughed about how oblivious I was. She called me boring. He said I was a shell, and that she was what a real woman looked like. They had been planning to eventually transition out of my life gently. She even suggested that maybe I'd accept a poly dynamic if they spun it right. I vomited on the floor before I could even get to the end of the thread. I packed a bag, stayed at my sister's that night, and sobbed harder than I thought humanly possible. I told her everything, showed her the texts. She believed me. She was the first and only one to do so immediately. Our younger brother still refuses to take sides. That weekend, I made a plan. I wasn't going to just leave. I was going to make sure everyone knew what they did. First, I confronted him. I came home, sat across from him at the kitchen table, and asked him to explain the messages. His face drained of color. He denied it at first, then tried to cry, then blamed me, said I was cold, that I pushed him away, that he never intended to fall for her, but she understood him. I recorded the whole conversation. Then I sent it to my mother and told her to meet me in person. She agreed, acting smug like she could calm me down. I met her at her condo. She greeted me with wine. I declined. She said, "Honey, men stray. Don't destroy your life over this." Like she had dropped a plate. Not my entire fucking world. I asked her how long it had been going on. She admitted, "Since your second anniversary." 7 years. 7 years of lies. 7 years of letting me call her when he stayed out late and pretending to be shocked. 7 years of sitting at my table every Christmas and watching me toast to family while fucking my husband in secret. When I called, "Her a monster," she laughed. I left before I did something I couldn't take back. I filed for divorce the next day, but that wasn't enough. I sent a detailed email to everyone, his parents, my extended family, our mutual friends. I included screenshots. I shared the audio of our conversation. I attached a few of the tamer photos. I wrote, "If you want to continue to support either of them, that's your choice. But I won't pretend they didn't burn me alive to satisfy their selfish impulses." The fallout was worse than a wildfire. His parents disowned him. My mother lost almost all her friends. Her social circle evaporated. Some people were horrified by the betrayal. Others told me I was vindictive. She tried to claim I had doctored the texts. Kyle said I humiliated him publicly and that he could lose his job. My response? Good. My therapist says I did what I needed to do to reclaim power. My sister says I'm a badass. But part of me still lies awake at night wondering if I went too far. I didn't physically hurt them, but I ruined them emotionally. I scorched the earth. I made sure everyone knew what they did. Sometimes I feel proud. Other times I feel empty. My mom tried to contact me again recently. She left a voicemail saying she's sick and wants to make peace. Kyle sent me a 3-paragraph email about how he misses our friendship and wants to talk as adults. I deleted both. So here I am, divorced, estranged, alone. But for the first time in years, I'm not being lied to. And somehow, that feels like freedom. Still, am I the a-hole? Am I the a-hole for destroying my fiancé's life after he cheated with my twin sister? I don't know what I'm doing anymore. I'm numb, hollowed out, like someone scooped my insides out with a rusted spoon and left nothing but rage, grief, and confusion behind. I don't recognize my life, my home, my reflection, or even my own name anymore. Everything I thought was real has been dismantled, brick by lying brick, and scattered into a pile of sharp, hateful ruins. So I'm here, writing this in the middle of the night with shaking hands and a bottle of wine I haven't even touched because I'm too sick to drink. I need to ask, am I the a-hole for destroying my fiancé's life after I discovered he cheated with my twin sister? Yes, you read that right. My twin. The person who shares my face, my blood, my childhood memories. The one I thought was my other half, who stood beside me through everything. Graduations, family trauma, heartbreaks, and joys. The one person I thought I could trust implicitly. And the man? The man I thought I would marry in 6 months. The man who whispered promises into my ear at night and called me his forever. They ripped my world apart, and I made sure I returned the favor. Let me rewind. I, 28F, met Alex, 30M, almost 4 years ago. We were one of those annoyingly perfect couples at first, laughing in every photo, cooking dinner together while dancing, barefoot in the kitchen, spontaneously driving out to the beach just to watch the sunrise. He was attentive, kind, emotionally intelligent, and supportive in all the ways my past partners had failed to be. I fell hard and fast, but for once it didn't feel like a mistake. He met my family within a few months, including my twin sister, Lana. She and I have always had a complicated relationship. She was the outgoing one, the funny one, the prettier twin by conventional standards. I was quieter, more reserved, bookish. We loved each other deeply, but I won't pretend we didn't compete. Still, I never imagined it could come to this. At first, Lana and Alex seemed to get along great, which I appreciated. I liked that he made an effort with my family, and I never felt threatened. Why would I? She was my sister. He was my man. End of story. But then things started to change. Slowly, insidiously. Looking back, there were signs. I just didn't want to believe them. She started texting him more, under the guise of planning my surprise birthday or helping with the proposal. Ring. They had inside jokes I wasn't part of. I walked in once to find them sitting just a little too close on the couch, both laughing a little too loudly. But when I mentioned it to Alex, he brushed it off. "She's your sister. You're being paranoid. Don't you trust me?" I did. God help me, I did. The proposal came a year ago. He flew me to the mountains, rented a private cabin, and popped the question under a blanket of stars. It was perfect, cinematic, emotional. I cried. We both did. I called Lana first. She screamed. With joy, said she was so happy for me. Told me I deserved everything beautiful. She helped me plan the wedding. Picked colors, tasted cakes, even helped me pick my dress. The dress. God, I want to burn it now. It all came crashing down 2 months ago. I was at work when my phone buzzed with a message from an unknown number. No words, just a video. At first I thought it was a prank, maybe spam, but something made me open it. The video started blurry, then focused. A dimly lit room, moaning, 2 bodies. I squinted. Then I saw his back, the tattoo on his shoulder blade. Alex. My stomach dropped. The camera panned. I saw her face. Lana. I nearly threw up on my desk. The room spun. I couldn't breathe. My coworkers thought I was having a panic attack, and they weren't wrong. I left early, trembling, heart pounding. I watched the video 10 more times in my car, unable to look away, unable to accept what I was seeing. She looked into the camera at one point. She smiled. That did something to me, broke something fundamental. This wasn't a drunken mistake. This was betrayal with intent. I didn't confront them right away. I needed proof. I played it smart. Something inside me clicked into survival mode. Over the next few days, I went through his messages, his cloud, even set up a dummy email and got into his backup chats. What I found gutted me. They'd been sleeping together for almost a year. A year. While we were planning our wedding, while he was telling me he wanted to start a family, while she was helping me pick floral arrangements, he was fucking her behind my back. They called it harmless fun. Said it was too good to stop. In one message, she said, "I'm better than her in every way and you know it." He responded, "Yeah, but she's the safe choice. You're the real one I crave." I read that over and over until the words lost meaning. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. Not then. I made a plan. I copied everything. Messages, videos, photos, even a voice recording he left her once where he said he wished I would disappear so they could be together without guilt. I saved it all in a folder titled Wedding Surprise. I sent anonymous tips to both their workplaces, Lana's. Boss is her godmother, and Alex works in a family-run company that prides itself on Christian values. I waited. The fallout was nuclear. Lana was suspended pending an HR investigation for violating conduct policy. Apparently, she'd been using work trips to meet up with Alex. Her boss, our godmother, called my mother in tears, ashamed and furious. My family imploded. My mom tried to call me, but I ignored every attempt. My dad sent one text, "I'm so sorry." That was enough. As for Alex, I sent the video to his boss anonymously. He was called into a meeting, and within 2 hours he was let go. Turns out his company had a strict moral clause because they worked with sensitive client families. Guess craving your fiancé's twin sister didn't quite align with the values on their mission statement. Then came the final act. I waited until what would have been our engagement party. Everyone was gathered in a rented hall. Friends, extended family, co-workers. I told everyone I had a surprise video to show before the toast. I played the montage. At first, it looked like a sweet recap of our relationship. Photos of us laughing, kissing, traveling. Then the screen went black. Text appeared. the truth behind the lies. Then came the messages, the recordings, and finally, the video. That video. The room was dead silent. Then gasps, then shouting. Lana ran out sobbing. Alex tried to unplug the projector but tripped over a chair. I stood there calmly, holding a glass of champagne I never drank. Then I said, "This was supposed to be the happiest night of my life. Instead, it's the most honest." I walked out to applause from my best friend and my cousin. That was 2 weeks ago. Since then, I've been getting messages non-stop, some people saying I went too far, others calling me a legend. Lana has been disowned by my parents for now. Alex tried to call me 17 times before I blocked him. He left a voicemail, saying I ruined his life and could have just broken up quietly. Lana sent a single text. "You're sick." I didn't reply. Now I'm sitting alone in the apartment we were supposed to share, surrounded by wedding stuff I never got to use. The pain is indescribable, the betrayal even worse. But I feel strangely at peace, too. I didn't lie. I didn't cheat. I didn't stab my own sister in the back. They did that. I just turned the lights on and let everyone see the rats scurrying. So, Reddit, am I the a-hole? I don't know what's left of me now. I don't know what parts are still real. All I know is that the people I loved most lied to me so thoroughly, so methodically, that I feel like my memories aren't mine anymore. That the story I believed was my life was just a stage play, rehearsed, edited, performed with fake smiles and tightly timed lines. I, 32M, have been with my wife, Leah, 34F, for nearly a decade, together for 11 years, married for 7. We were high school acquaintances who reconnected in our mid-20s at a mutual friend's engagement party. She was radiant, funny, a little neurotic but warm, the kind of person who makes you feel like you've known her forever, even if you've just met. I was drawn to her instantly. We dated for 2 years before getting engaged. Married the year after. I thought we were solid. Sure, we had our fights. She had a tendency to be a little secretive with her phone, and sometimes I'd find myself wondering why she stayed so close with certain male friends from work. But I chalked it up to her being a social, extroverted person and me being a little more insecure and introverted. I didn't want to be that guy who tells his wife who she can be friends with. I trusted her. I built my life around that trust. We bought a house together, not huge but cozy. We made Sunday morning pancake traditions. We adopted a rescue dog. We tried for kids for 2 years before she suggested we take a break from trying, focus on us for a while, maybe revisit IVF later when we were more financially stable. That stung, but I agreed. I thought maybe the stress was getting to her. I had no reason to doubt her intentions, until I found the phone. It wasn't her regular phone. It was a second phone, an old iPhone 8 buried in the drawer of her art room under sketch pads and a zip-up pencil case. I only found it because I was looking for one of her missing watercolors to hang in the hallway, something she promised she'd finish for my birthday. I never would have looked there otherwise. When I picked it up, I almost put it down without opening it. But then it buzzed, just once, a text preview from someone named D. My stomach twisted. I opened it. No passcode. Either she'd forgotten about it or was just that confident I'd never find it. The last few texts were pornographic, not flirtatious, explicit, photos, video clips, things she had never done with me, things she had sworn she didn't even like. My hands started shaking. I scrolled up. Weeks of messages, then months, then years. 2.5 years worth of texts, images, confessions, declarations of love, references to secret getaways, him picking her up after work under the guise of late meetings, meeting at hotels while I was on work trips, her telling him she wished they could live out loud, telling him I was dull, safe, suffocating, that I wouldn't survive if she left, and that she stayed with me because I'd fall apart without her, like I was some pathetic animal limping behind her. I couldn't stop reading. I kept going even though every line tore another piece out of me, and then I saw his name, Darren, not a random coworker, not a Tinder mistake. My best friend since college, my best man at our wedding, the man I once drunkenly told during a late-night heart-to-heart, "If anything ever happened to me, take care of her. You're the only person I'd trust to." And apparently, he had taken that as permission to fuckst her behind my back for nearly 3 goddamn years. I don't remember driving to Darren's place. I don't remember parking. I only remember the sound of my fist against his door, the way my voice cracked as I screamed his name. He opened it, confused, in gym shorts and no shirt, and the second he saw the look on my face, he knew. He didn't deny it, didn't fight, didn't speak. Just stood there while I yelled at him, while I shoved him back into his hallway, while I told him he was dead to me. At one point he whispered, "I didn't mean to fall in love with her." And that phrase, those words, shattered something primal in me. Because it meant this wasn't just sex. This was betrayal layered in affection, time, intimacy. They had a relationship, a secret life. While I was picking out curtains and researching dog food brands, they were picking out lingerie and laughing. About me over pillow talk. I left his place numb, shaking, screaming inside. I drove home and waited for Leah. She walked in with a smoothie and a smile and her usual "Hey, babe," and I tossed the phone on the table and said, "Who the fuck is Darren to you, really?" The way her face fell, I'll never forget that. Expression, a mixture of horror, fear, shame. She didn't deny it either. She just collapsed onto the floor and cried, said it just happened. That they reconnected after he helped her move some art supplies one weekend while I was away, and it spiraled from there. That it was never supposed to be serious. That she didn't mean to fall in love. That she did love me, just in a different way. That she needed more than I could give, but she didn't want to lose me either. I asked her why. Why she stayed. Why she lied. Why she let me plan anniversaries, buy her gifts, make love to her, while she was thinking about someone else. She said I was safe, that I was home, that she didn't want to destroy the life we built. She begged me not to tell anyone, not to ruin our reputations, not to let it end this way. I told her I'd give her one chance to come clean to our friends and families before I did. I gave her 3 days. She didn't use them. She cried, slept on the couch, pretended like things could go back, but never told a soul. So I did. I told everyone. I sent the texts, screenshots, dates, photos. I told her parents, my parents, our mutual friends. I emailed her boss, not to get her fired, but because she had lied about a work trip that was actually a weekend with Darren. Her job is integrity heavy. It mattered. She screamed at me, said I was cruel, vengeful, that I was blowing up her life out of spite. I told her she lit the fuse. I just refused to sit in the explosion. The fallout was catastrophic. Darren lost his girlfriend. Our friend circle split in half. Some people stayed neutral. Others ghosted her completely. Her parents were devastated. Her mother told me she was so sorry for the daughter she raised. My parents offered to help me. Move out? I declined. I stayed, made her leave. She went to stay with her sister across town. I filed for divorce that week, but here's where the story stops being simple. Because about a month into the separation, I got a call from Darren's ex, Emily. I barely knew her. They'd only been dating 2 years, long distance most of that time, but she was nice the few times we met. She asked if she could come over, said she had something to show me. I said yes, figuring maybe she had more messages, some confirmation that they'd started cheating earlier than they claimed. I was wrong. What she had was worse. She brought a folder. Inside were screenshots of emails, dozens of them, from Leah. To her, going back over a year, all written from an anonymous account. At first they were subtle, fake Craigslist postings, weird spam-like threats. But then they got darker, vicious. They called Emily names, accused her of cheating, said she wasn't good enough for Darren, that she was ruining something she didn't even understand. They escalated to threats. If you don't leave him, you'll regret it. You don't know what he really wants. I do. One included a blurred photo of Emily walking home from work. Another was a screenshot of her private Instagram, which she didn't even use under her real name. Someone had stalked her, tracked her, violated her privacy. She had filed a police report but never had enough to go on until she put it together after the breakup, and all signs pointed to Leah. That's when it clicked. Leah didn't just have an affair. She engineered Darren's availability. She stalked his girlfriend, harassed her, drove her out of his life so she could have him entirely. This wasn't love. This was obsession. A calculated campaign of manipulation. I told Emily everything I had. We compared timelines. She left that day promising to file a civil complaint. I hope she does. I want the world to know what Leah did, not just to me, but to her. The divorce finalized 6 weeks ago. I kept the house. She wanted none of it. Said it was tainted now. Good. Let it rot in her memory. I gutted the place. New paint. New furniture. I got rid of the dog bed, not because I blamed the dog, but because it reminded me too much of the life we were pretending to have. I donated every photo, deleted every video. I've gone scorched earth, and still I find her echoes. Everywhere. In the drawers, in the old emails, in the way the light hits the damn kitchen table. Some nights I lie awake and wonder how long she had been planning it, if it was just opportunity, or if she always saw me as a backup life, a placeholder until the real thing worked out. I wonder if she ever meant to choose me, or if I was always going to be the collateral damage in someone else's passion project. So, am I the a-hole for telling the truth? For burning her life down after she buried mine under years of deception? She thinks I am. Her sister texted me that I went too far, that I should have just left quietly, that I humiliated her. But I think the real humiliation isn't being exposed. It's realizing you were never loved the way you thought you were, that you were just a pawn in someone else's delusion. And now I have to live with that, every day, forever. But at least I don't have to pretend anymore. Am I the a-hole for exposing my mother's decades-long affair with my uncle at her 60th birthday party and ruining our entire family in the process? I, 28M, didn't plan to destroy my family. I didn't want to be the reason we all scattered, like broken glass across the floor. But once I learned the truth, once I really saw what was going on, I couldn't unsee it, and I couldn't stay silent either. My mom turned 60 last month. She wanted a big party, garden setting, strings, lights, catered meal, slideshow of her life, the works. My dad, 62M, spent months planning it. He even learned how to use iMovie just to make a cheesy montage of her through the years, baby photos, high school prom, their wedding, holding me as a baby, dancing in the kitchen. He was so proud of it, so proud of her. It was supposed to be a celebration of love, loyalty, and longevity. Instead, it became the night that obliterated everything. Let me rewind. My parents always seemed normal, better than normal. They were high school sweethearts, married at 20, had me at 30. Dad's a quiet, gentle guy. Works in accounting, loves puzzles, gardening, jazz music. Mom's louder, more extroverted. She taught middle school for years, always the one organizing family events, holidays, friend reunions. Our house was the one everyone gathered at for Thanksgiving. People admired them. Such a solid couple, they'd say. Still so in love. That illusion cracked 3 months ago. It started with a box. After Mom retired, she asked me to help her clear out the attic. Just random old junk. Boxes of school papers, Christmas decorations, broken photo frames. I was digging through one when I found a small leather-bound journal wrapped in a silk scarf. It was hidden under old books. I'm not proud of this, but curiosity got the better of me. I opened it and read the first page. December 8th, 1997. He came to my classroom, again today, said he needed help with his taxes, laughed when I rolled my eyes. I hate how good it feels when he touches my shoulder. I hate that I still let him. I froze. I flipped a few pages. January 15th, 1998. The motel again. I told myself it would. Be the last time. I looked at the mirror afterward and barely recognized myself. More flipping. June 22nd, 2001. He came to your 5th birthday, and I watched him hold your hand like nothing had happened. Like we weren't still waking up, tangled in each other's skin 2 nights ago. I hate him. I love him. I hate myself. More. I stopped breathing. Because she named him. Every single entry, every secret motel visit, every stolen kiss behind my dad's back, every disgusting detail. B. B is my uncle, my dad's brother, my goddamn Uncle Ben. The man I grew up calling Uncle B, who bought me my first bike. Took me fishing, danced with me at prom when I didn't have a date. Who's married to my Aunt Carla and has 2 kids of his own. My cousins, who I consider siblings. And apparently he'd been fucking my mom for decades. The journal spanned 27 years, from 1997 to 2024. The last entry was from 6 weeks ago. I told B we have to stop. I'm turning 60. I'm tired of lying. He said he couldn't imagine a world where we weren't us. I cried in the shower for an hour. I'm hosting Easter this year. I sat on that attic floor for a long, long time. I didn't confront her. Not then. I left the journal where I found it, drove home, locked myself in my apartment, and broke. There's no other word. I broke. My whole life snapped in half. Every memory, every photo, every I love you between her and my dad suddenly. Felt poisoned. I started spiraling. Called out of work. Didn't answer texts. Just sat there rereading those entries over and over until they burned into my brain like acid. I couldn't believe it, but at the same time, I could. Things started. To click, Uncle Ben always came to our house when Dad was away on business. I remembered how they always lingered around each other at family events. The weird inside jokes. The way she touched his arm when she laughed. Once, when I was 12, I saw them sitting close on the back porch late at night. Thought nothing of it then. Now it felt like a flash grenade in my memory. 2 weeks before her birthday, I confronted my mom. I asked her, flat out, "How long have you been sleeping with Uncle Ben?" Her face went pale, like blood drained from her bones. She sat down slowly and whispered, "How do you know?" No denial, no outrage, just defeat. I told her I found the journal. She covered her mouth and sobbed. I stood there, waiting for some explanation. Some reason, but all she said was, "I never meant to hurt anyone," I said. "You've been hurting Dad for 27 years. She cried harder, asked me not to tell him, said it would kill him, that he didn't deserve that pain. I agreed. But said that didn't mean I'd lie for her. I asked her if she'd ever planned to stop. She looked away. The next week was agony. I couldn't be near her, couldn't speak to Uncle Ben without wanting to punch his teeth out. But I didn't tell anyone. I didn't want to be the bomb. I wanted her to come clean. She owed that to my dad. She never did. Then came the party. Beautiful. Decorations, live band, 35 guests, everyone smiling, toasts. My dad crying as he gave a speech about the love of my life. I almost vomited. I could barely look at her. Then it was my turn to speak, and I snapped. I got up, took the mech, looked at my dad, then at her, and said, "Mom, you're right. 60 years is a big milestone. But I think what's more impressive is managing to lie to your husband for 27 of them. About fucking his own brother." The silence was nuclear. Gasps, glass breaking. My dad looked like he'd been electrocuted. Uncle Ben stood up. So fast he knocked over his chair. My mom burst into tears. People were shouting. My Aunt Carla started screaming, "What is he talking about?" My cousin ran out. My dad just stared at my mom and said, in the quietest voice, "Tell me he's lying." She didn't. He collapsed into a chair. The rest is a blur. Chaos. Crying. Fighting. Uncle Ben tried to approach my dad and got shoved into a wall by another uncle. My mom tried to grab my arm and I pulled away. People left in waves. My Aunt Carla demanded a paternity test for her youngest daughter. My cousins haven't spoken to their dad since. My father stayed at my place that night and just stared at the wall until morning. Now the fallout is everywhere. My parents are getting divorced, my Aunt Carla is filing for one too, my extended family is shattered, holidays canceled, group chats imploded. My dad is broken. I've never seen him like this. He's quiet, numb. Sometimes I catch him looking at old photos with a look I can't even describe. And my mom? She's begging me to apologize, saying I ruined everything, that I could have let her handle it privately, that this wasn't my truth to tell. But wasn't it? So, Reddit, am I the a-hole for exposing my mom's affair and destroying my entire family in the process? Edit. Yes, I showed the journal to my dad afterward. He read every word. Yes, my cousin did a DNA test. Her dad is not Uncle Ben. But the trust is gone. No, I don't feel good about any of this. I feel hollow. But at least now the lies aren't louder than the truth. Am I the a-hole for cheating on my wife with someone I didn't know was her half-sister, and then staying with that person after it all came out? Throw away account because, yeah, this one's a mess, and I expect to be dragged. But I honestly don't know anymore if what I did was evil, just idiotic, or something more complicated. I, 35 INM, was married to Ella, 34F, for 6 years. We met through mutual friends at a concert. She was confident, funny, and had this kind of intimidating, sharp energy that drew me in. I'm quieter, more observant, a little awkward maybe. But she liked that about me, said I made her feel calm, safe. She had a rough childhood, some trauma I won't get into, and for a long time I felt like I was the stable place she could land. She called me her home base. We dated for 3 years, moved in together after one, married in 2017. Life was decent. We both had full-time jobs. I'm in IT, she's in marketing. No kids by choice, just 2 dogs. Typical, quiet suburban life. To outsiders, we looked happy, but cracks started forming around 2021. COVID brought us closer for a while, but after lockdowns eased, she changed. She became more distant, spent more time on her phone, started going to girls' nights more often. When I'd ask what was wrong, she'd say she was just burned out, that I didn't get it, that she needed space, so I gave her space. Maybe too much. Around that time, I started working out more and hanging out at a small indie gym near our house. That's where I met Tara. Tara, 32F, was new in town, charismatic, always laughing. She was into weightlifting, not in a hardcore way, but enough to intimidate most people. She had this wildness to her, tattoos, bright eyes, loud music taste, didn't care what people thought. We started talking casually, then spotting each other, then texting, then sharing playlists. It was all innocent, until it wasn't. One night, after spotting me during a particularly rough set, she said, "If I didn't know better, I'd think you were lifting out some frustration." I laughed and said something like, "Maybe I am." She looked right at me and said, "Tell me what she did." And somehow, I did. I told her how distant Ella had become, how I felt like a ghost in my own marriage, how I missed feeling wanted, seen. Tara listened. Then she kissed me. I pulled away. She apologized. I told her I was married. She nodded. "And you're still lonely." I didn't know what to say. 2 weeks later, I slept with her. I didn't plan it. We were both at the gym. Late, it was storming. The power flickered, and we sat in the office waiting it out. We kissed again, and this time I didn't stop her. It wasn't even hot or romantic. It was desperate, quiet, like 2 people trying to feel something through fog. After that night, I tried to end it. Guilt hit me like a truck. I avoided the gym, ignored her texts, told myself it was a mistake. But she showed up at the coffee shop I worked from sometimes, sat across from me and said, "You can pretend you don't want this, or you can be honest with yourself." I didn't walk away. The affair lasted 4 months. It wasn't just physical. We talked about everything, our childhoods, regrets, dreams. She told me she had family she didn't talk to, said she'd been in foster care for a while after her. Mom died, bounced around until she got old enough to be on her own. I never pushed her for more. I figured some people's paths are just hard. During those months, Ella became even colder, more distracted. I half believed she knew and just didn't care. There were times I thought she might be cheating too, always smiling at her phone, saying she was working late, but coming home without her laptop or briefcase. Once I asked her point blank if there was someone else. She blinked and said, "Does it matter?" That sentence stuck in my head like a knife. By January 2023, Tara started asking me where we were headed. I told her I didn't know, that I couldn't blow up my life over a maybe. She said, "But you already blew it up. You just haven't admitted it yet." In February, Ella came home early and caught me on a call with Tara. I didn't say anything. Incriminating, but the look on her face told me she already knew. She didn't scream, she just walked upstairs. 15 minutes later, she came back down with a folder, slapped it on the table and said, "Before you open that, I want to ask one question. Was it worth it?" I opened the folder. It was pictures of me and Tara walking into her apartment, kissing in my car, screenshots of our texts, even some stuff I'd sent her through Instagram. Ella had known for at least a month, maybe more. She'd hired a PI. She didn't ask for a confession. She already had it. I begged her to talk to me, to yell, to cry. She didn't. She just said, "You're going to want to sit down for this next part." She handed me another folder. Inside was a birth certificate, Tara's. Her last name was different, but there it was. Same mother's name as Ella's. Same city. Same year range. Ella once told me her mom had gone missing for a while. Tara was her half-sister. Let me say that again, because my brain short-circuited the first time I heard it. I cheated on my wife with her half-sister, who I had no idea even existed. Ella explained that their mom had an affair during her marriage to Ella's dad, got pregnant with Tara, tried to hide it, gave the baby up. Years later, after her mom died, Ella did an ancestry test and found out she had a half-sibling, Tara. But when Ella reached out, Tara told her to fuck us off and never contact her again. That she didn't want a sister. That she'd been abandoned and didn't need charity now. Ella respected it. She never told anyone, not even me. Until now. I was speechless, horrified, shaking. Ella just stood there and said, "You didn't just destroy our marriage. You destroyed what little family I could have had." I tried to call Tara. She didn't answer. The next day she texted me, "I didn't know she was your wife. I swear to God I didn't." Then radio silence. I spiraled. My wife wanted nothing to do with me, filed for divorce within the week. Our mutual friends picked sides, mostly hers. My family was stunned. My parents called it a tragedy of Greek proportions. My brother said, "You couldn't have just had a normal midlife crisis?" But here's the twist. Tara reached out again. A month after everything blew up. She said she was sorry, that she had no idea Ella and I were connected, that she'd never seen a picture of us together. Ella had never mentioned me, and honestly, it tracked. Tara was wild, but not malicious. She had no reason to blow up her life for revenge. She wanted nothing from Ella. We met at a park, talked for 4 hours, and somehow, despite everything, we still wanted each other. I know how that sounds. I do. But the connection wasn't fake. It wasn't built because of the betrayal. It survived, in spite of it. We understood each other in a way that felt terrifying and electric and painful, like two broken pieces that almost fit, but not quite. We're together now, quietly. We moved to another city, different state, started over, but we're still carrying the weight of it. Ella won't speak to me, or to her. She sent me a letter once, months later, saying she hoped we were both happy being the ugliest version of ourselves. That she'd rather be alone forever than be around people. Like us? Sometimes I wonder if she's right. Sometimes I wonder if I'm a monster. So, Reddit. Am I the a-hole for falling in love with someone I didn't know was her half-sister and staying with her even after the truth came out? Idiot. Yes, Tara and I both did DNA tests afterward to confirm it. She is her half-sister. There's no doubt. No, we are not biologically related in any way. There is zero shared ancestry between me and either of them. And no, we did not know. Until we did. But now we do. And we stayed. Does that make us unforgivable? Am I the a-hole for cheating on my husband and then accusing him of emotional abuse when he exposed me to everyone in the most humiliating way imaginable? Before you come at me, I know this is going to make me look like the villain. I was the villain. But things aren't always black and white, and I need to know if what he did in response was truly justified or if he went too far trying to destroy me. I'm 36F, married to Liam, 38M. Or I was. We met in college, dated for 6 years, and got married in 2013. We have 2 children, Olivia, 9, and Lucas, 7. Liam works in cybersecurity and has always been a reserved, methodical person, extremely intelligent, extremely disciplined, and, if I'm being honest, a little emotionally cold. Not abusive, not unkind, but distant. Always calculating, always working, never fully present. I'm more of a creative type. I work in interior design. I'm bubbly, emotional, affectionate. At first, our differences balanced each other. But as the years passed, I felt like I was the only one trying to keep the spark alive. He never planned dates, never wrote me notes or bought flowers. Sex dwindled to once every couple weeks, then once a month. Conversations became transactional. Did you pick up milk? Olivia's dance is at 5. Can you pay the water bill? That's it. I felt like a ghost in my own marriage. I begged him to go to counseling. He refused, said, "We don't need a stranger to tell us how to talk. Just say what you want." I said I wanted passion, romance, something. He told me passion was a teenage fantasy and that grown-up relationships are about stability and partnership. Maybe he was right, but it felt like I was married to a business partner, not a husband. So, yes, 2 years ago I cheated. It started when I reconnected with a guy I dated in high school, Nick, 37M. Nick and I had a messy teenage relationship full of fire and chaos. He was wild, funny, unpredictable, and honestly not someone I thought I'd ever see again. But he reached out on Instagram during COVID lockdowns just to say hi. 1 conversation. Turned into 2, then into long phone calls. Then we started meeting at a hotel once a week. Nick made me feel alive. He remembered things I said. He flirted. He made me laugh. He made me feel sexy, like a woman again. I told myself I was just blowing off steam, that it would stay physical, that it wouldn't touch my family. But of course it did. Liam is many things, but dumb isn't one of them. I didn't know it at the time, but he had started noticing changes. The new lingerie I didn't wear for him, the weekend client meetings, the way I always smiled at my phone. He didn't confront me. He waited, he tracked everything, installed a keystroke logger on my laptop, cloned my phone, checked security, cam footage from our driveway, tracked my car GPS. He compiled hundreds of pages of messages, images, call logs, and even hotel receipts. He hired a private investigator who followed me and Nick multiple times. Then, one day, everything exploded. It was our 10th wedding anniversary. I thought we were just doing a quiet dinner at home with the kids. I came home to our living room, decorated like a photo exhibit. Seriously. Liam had printed out screenshots of messages between me and Nick and taped them to the walls in chronological order, like a timeline of betrayal. Our kids weren't home, thank God, but that wasn't all. He had invited both of our parents, my brother, his sister, a few of our closest friends. They were all sitting there silently, staring at the walls. The atmosphere was chilling. At the center of the room was a folder labeled "For Divorce Court." When I walked in, I thought it was some bizarre anniversary scavenger hunt. Then I saw a photo of Nick kissing my shoulder. My knees buckled. I dropped my purse and couldn't breathe. My mom was crying. My dad looked like he was going to throw up. My brother just stared at me in disbelief. And Liam? He stood there stone-faced and handed me the folder and said, "Here's the proof. I've emailed copies to everyone in this room. You're free to take your things and leave. Olivia and Lucas are staying with me tonight, and every night from now on." I ran. I stayed at a friend's place for a few days. When I finally got the courage to go home and talk to him, he had already changed the locks. He told me if I wanted anything from the house, I'd need to have my lawyer coordinate. I asked to see the kids. He said, "You can talk to my lawyer about a custody schedule." I broke down sobbing on his front lawn. He called the cops and said I was trespassing. Here's where it got even worse. Liam didn't stop at the family. He posted an open letter on Facebook with redacted screenshots and a long essay about how betrayal destroys trust. He didn't name me directly, but everyone knew. Clients from my interior design business started canceling. Friends stopped calling. Even Nick ghosted me once he realized how messy things were going to get. The divorce proceedings were brutal. Liam's lawyer used the evidence to argue for primary custody and minimized my visitation rights. The judge granted him sole legal custody and only limited visitation for me until I proved I had gone through a full psychological evaluation and therapy. Liam told the court I was reckless, emotionally manipulative, and incapable of putting the children's stability before her own impulses. He called me a danger to their emotional development. It worked. I lost almost everything. The house, my reputation, my business imploded. Clients didn't want to work with the cheating homewrecker from Facebook. My parents are still ashamed. My mother told me she didn't raise me to be this kind of woman. My own brother hasn't returned my calls. Now I live in a rented apartment above a noisy coffee shop. I see the kids 2 weekends a month. Olivia barely speaks to me. Lucas asked if Daddy was going to find him a new mommy who doesn't lie. I started therapy, real therapy. And for the first time, I'm confronting the reasons I cheated. My resentment, my codependency, my need for external validation, my immature view of love. It's hard. I cry constantly. I write the kids letters I don't send. I'm rebuilding from scratch. But here's my question. Was what Liam did? Okay, I get that I betrayed him. I broke our vows. But exposing me in front of our families like that? Turning it into a public humiliation ritual? Posting an open letter online that destroyed my career and reputation? Calling the cops when I was crying on our lawn? Is that really about justice, or was it vengeance? He didn't want to fix the marriage. He wanted to destroy me. I understand his pain. I do. I earned his fury. But I can't help but wonder if his reaction was disproportionate. He turned me into a pariah. Our kids will grow up knowing I was the one who cheated and ruined everything. But what about his role in the slow death of our marriage? His coldness? His emotional neglect? Do I bear all the blame? So, Reddit. Am I the a-hole for cheating and then calling my husband emotionally abusive for how he retaliated? Edit. I get it. I deserve the judgment. But I wanted to address a few repeated comments. Why are you making yourself the victim? I'm not. I know I fucked up. I just didn't expect Liam to go full scorched earth. I thought we'd argue, cry, maybe separate quietly. I never thought he'd blow up my entire life. You deserved to be exposed. Maybe. Maybe people should be held accountable publicly. But my kids are caught in the crossfire. Olivia won't look me in the eye. Lucas cries when I leave. I feel like Liam used them to punish me too. You want sympathy now? No, I want understanding. I want to know if I'm wrong for thinking his revenge went too far, or if this is just what I deserve. Am I the a-hole for cheating on my husband and then being furious when he turned our kids against me? This is going to be long and messy, but I need to get it out. I, 43F, have been married to Jordan, 45MI, for 17 years. We have 3 children together, Emily, 15, Noah, 12, and Sophie, 9. We built a beautiful life, a nice home in the suburbs, a family SUV, dance recitals and soccer tournaments, Friday night movie traditions. To anyone on the outside, we were perfect. Jordan is a good man. He's a high school math teacher, quiet, steady, loyal to a fault. He's never missed a single parent-teacher conference, birthday party, or orthodontist appointment. He's not flashy, not romantic, but he shows up, always. He folds laundry while watching sports, makes pancakes every Sunday, and still opens my car door when we go out. But for years, I felt nothing. I don't know when it started. Maybe after Sophie was born, maybe after my mother died. Maybe when I realized I'd given up so much of myself to be a wife and mother. I stayed home with the kids for almost a decade. My world shrank to dishes, diapers, and PTA meetings. Jordan would come home exhausted and just want to watch TV. We barely touched each other. I started to feel invisible. I re-entered the workforce 3 years ago as a communications manager at a small marketing firm. That's where I met Ethan, 38M. Ethan was magnetic. He was funny, stylish, charismatic, and he saw me. He complimented my ideas, noticed my outfits, laughed at my jokes. For the first time in years, I felt like a woman. Not just a mom or someone's wife. It started with long lunches, then texts, then hotel rooms during client offsites. I didn't mean for it to happen. But once it did, I felt alive again. I knew it was wrong. Every time I came home, I'd watch Jordan making dinner with the kids and feel a crushing wave of guilt. I'd overcompensate, extra affectionate, overly helpful, playing the perfect wife. But the affair didn't stop. It lasted 11 months. Then I slipped up. Jordan found a message on my smartwatch while I was showering. Ethan had sent a voice note calling me his delicious distraction and joking about last night's acrobatics. When I came out of the bathroom, Jordan was sitting on the bed holding my watch like it was radioactive. He didn't yell. He didn't cry. He just asked, "How long?" I crumbled, told him everything. He didn't say a word, just stood up, walked out, and didn't come back for 2 days. When he returned, he said he would stay in the guest room until we figured out next steps. The following week, he called a lawyer. Now here's where it gets messy. Jordan didn't just file for divorce, he made sure our kids knew why. He didn't lie, he didn't exaggerate, but he sat them down, with a therapist to be fair, and explained that Mom broke our marriage by being with someone else. He told them the truth. I begged him not to. I pleaded. I said it would ruin my relationship with them. He said, "They deserve honesty." Since that day, Emily has barely spoken to me. She called me a homewrecker to my face. Noah cried and asked if I loved Ethan more than them. Sophie doesn't understand, but she's cold now, withdrawn. They all want to live with Jordan full time. I went from being their center to being something broken. I tried therapy, I tried letters, I tried family counseling. Nothing has worked. Jordan isn't angry, he's disappointed, which is worse. He's polite, civil, but emotionally gone. Here's what makes me question everything. My friends are divided. Some say I deserve it. You cheated, you live with the consequences. Others say Jordan weaponized the truth to punish me. They ask, what good does telling young kids the ugly details do? Couldn't he have said, "We're separating," and left it at that? I didn't beat my kids. I didn't abandon them. I made a mistake, a selfish, horrible, painful mistake. But do I deserve to be cast out of their lives completely? Jordan won't badmouth me, but he lets them hate me. He doesn't correct them when they say cruel things. He says, "They're processing." I see Ethan occasionally, but it's not serious. It was never about forever. He offered to move in when the divorce started, and I refused. This isn't his mess to fix. So Reddit, be brutal. I can take it. Am I the a-hole for cheating? And even more so for being furious that my husband made sure our kids knew I did? Edit. I expected harsh words, and I appreciate the ones that were fair and constructive. A few clarifications. Why did you cheat instead of just leaving? Because I was a coward. I didn't want to break up my family. I thought I could have both, the excitement and the stability. I didn't think it through. I lied to myself, more than anyone. You destroyed your kids? I know. That's the part that breaks me. I didn't think Jordan would ever tell them. I assumed we'd give them a sugar-coated version. I know they deserved honesty, but part of me wishes they could have stayed innocent a little longer. Do you regret the affair? Yes, because it cost me everything that mattered. I got high on feeling wanted, but now the crash is devastating. I walk through my empty house hearing their laughter in old echoes. Nothing was worth this. I'll keep trying. I still love my kids, I still show up, but I don't know if they'll ever let me back in. Am I the a-hole for exposing my wife's affair at her promotion party and ruining her career? Our Wesai 38mm have been married to Lana, 36F, for 10 years. We met at a mutual friend's engagement party, hit it off instantly, and were engaged within 8 months. She was brilliant, ambitious, beautiful, everything I thought I wanted in a partner. We married the next year. No big ceremony, just a small beach wedding with close friends and family. I remember thinking I was the luckiest man alive. Lana has always been driven. From the moment I met her, she made it clear that she had big goals for her career in finance. She started as an analyst at a major firm, clawed her way up over the years, and eventually landed a director position. I've always supported her, cooked when she worked late, took care of bills, encouraged her when she doubted herself. I make decent money too. I run a small but successful IT business, but Lana's job quickly became the dominant force in our lives. Her schedule, her meetings, her flights. I didn't mind, not at first. I admired her work ethic. We don't have kids, and that was a mutual decision. At least it was until a few years ago when I started thinking about it seriously. I brought it up, but she brushed it off. Always some reason. Too much going on right now. Let's wait until the promotion. Let's travel more first. I didn't want to pressure her, but every time I suggested we talk about the future, she'd shut down or change the subject. Around the beginning of this year, things started to feel off. Lana started being on her phone more, smiling at messages. She wouldn't explain. She suddenly cared way more about her appearance. New lingerie, fresh haircuts, perfume, she used to say, gave her a headache. She started going on more work trips that didn't show up on her shared calendar. One night, I noticed her lock her phone for the first time in years. I confronted her gently, asked if everything was okay. She rolled her eyes and said I was being paranoid. "I'm getting promoted," she said. "Do you want me to fail because I'm worried you don't trust me?" That shut me up. I felt guilty, but my gut wouldn't let it go. So I did something I'm not proud of. I checked her iPad. It was synced to her iMessages. And there it was. Dozens of messages with someone named Nathan. Flirty, sexual, intimate. Photos, videos, voice notes. The whole digital graveyard of my marriage. Nathan was her coworker. Not just any coworker. Her boss. The VP of her division. Married with 2 kids. Their affair had been going on for 9 months. 9. And I had no idea. They even had nicknames for each other. My Lioness and King N. I still want to puke thinking about it. I didn't confront her immediately. I needed to be smart. I took screenshots, saved them to an encrypted drive, printed a few, and even recorded one of their FaceTime calls from the iPad. I felt like a private investigator in my own home. Every day I pretended everything was fine while watching her lie to my face. Then came the announcement. Lana had been selected to lead a new West Coast division. A major promotion. Huge raise. More responsibility. She was over the moon. Her company threw a fancy cocktail party in her honor, and she begged me to come. "Please, babe, it'll mean the world to me," she said. So I agreed. That party was the moment I knew I had to expose it, because she didn't even have the decency to pause the affair after getting what she wanted. I knew she and Nathan had checked into a hotel that very morning. I saw the Uber receipt. And she still smiled at me like nothing was wrong, like I was a prop in her perfect life. so I did what I probably shouldn't have. During the party, after speeches and drinks and the usual corporate ass-kissing, I waited for a quiet moment. Then I walked to the mic, pretending to toast her. I said, "I just want to say how proud I am of my wife. She's worked so hard. Long nights, endless trips, and despite everything, she's managed to keep a very special connection alive." People laughed. Lana looked confused but smiled. Then I continued, "It takes a strong woman to juggle a high-pressure job, a marriage, and a months-long affair with her boss, who, by the way, is here tonight." You could hear the silence drop like a bomb. I pulled out my phone, connected it to the projector screen, thank you, AirDrop, and flashed one of the screenshots. It was a message thread between her and Nathan, something gross about ripping her blazer off in the boardroom. People gasped. A woman near Nathan, I later found out it was his wife, stood up and slapped him. Lana looked like she'd seen a ghost. She ran toward me, hissing, "What the fuck are you doing?" I just said, "Cleaning house." Security escorted us out. Her firm launched an investigation. Nathan was placed on administrative leave. Lana's promotion was rescinded. She's now working remotely, pending HR review. I filed for divorce. Now here's where things get complicated. My family supports me, but some of our mutual friends think I went too far. They say I humiliated her publicly when I could have handled it in private, that I torpedoed her career. Out of spite, that now she's paying 10 times harder than she would have if I'd just divorced her quietly. Lana, of course, is furious. She says I've ruined her life, that she lost the job she'd worked a decade for, that I acted like a child and made her a laughingstock in the industry. She even accused me of abuse, saying what I did was emotional terrorism. Her parents are begging me to reconsider. Can't you two just talk this out? So Reddit, I don't know. Did I go too far? Am I the a-hole for nuking her life in public instead of just walking away silently? Edit. Update. Wow. I didn't expect this post to get as much attention as it did. I appreciate all the comments. Supportive. Critical, everything in between. A few clarifications. Why not just divorce her quietly? I could have. I really could have. But I need you to understand something. She wasn't sorry. Not even a little. The affair was ongoing. She didn't plan to stop. She used me as the loyal husband in the background while she climbed the ladder. That party was the culmination of all her manipulation. I didn't plan to go nuclear until I realized she genuinely saw nothing wrong with what she'd done. You ruined her career. No, she did. She made the choices. She slept with her married boss for 9 months. In most companies, that's a major ethics violation, especially when power dynamics are involved. She got caught because she got careless. Was it revenge? Yes, partly. But it was also about truth, about pulling the mask off. She was living a double life, and I exposed it in one clean slice. What's next? The divorce is proceeding. I'm not contesting anything. I don't want alimony. I don't want the house. I want out, clean. I've started therapy. I want to understand why I ignored the signs, why I let myself be lied to for so long. Would you do it again? Honestly, probably not. I'd leave, quietly, dignified. But in that moment, surrounded by people praising her, toasting her success, knowing the truth, I snapped. Maybe it wasn't noble, but it was honest. That's all. Thanks for reading. And if you're ever tempted to check someone's iPad, trust your gut. It probably already knows. Am I the a-hole for cheating on my husband after he made a bet about me with his friends? Throwaway account because my main has too many mutuals. Let me start by saying I know cheating is wrong. I'm not here to make excuses or pretend I didn't. Cross a major line, but I need to explain why it happened, and I honestly want to know if I'm truly the only person in the wrong here. My husband, Matt, and I have been married for 6 years, together for 9. We met in college and had what I thought was a solid relationship. He was charming, fun, smart. I loved him deeply. We've had some ups and downs, who doesn't? But overall, I believed we were loyal, trusting partners. I'm a 33-year-old woman, and Matt is 35. We don't have kids yet, though we were starting to try. I thought we were both on board with building a future, growing together. That's why what I found out completely shattered something in me. Matt has this group of close college friends, Dave, Greg, and Eli. They're all still in touch and get together every few months to play poker, drink, or go to a cabin. I've always had a weird vibe from them. It's like when they're together, they regress into this toxic frat boy pack. They make crude jokes, they rank women, they talk about their wives and girlfriends like they're objects. Matt always toned it down around me, but I could tell it was part of his personality, buried under layers of husbandhood. 2 months ago, Matt went on a weekend cabin trip with the guys. Nothing new, he's done it every year. He came back happy, tired, normal. Nothing seemed off. But a few days after he got back, he left his laptop open in the living room. Not snooping, he literally walked away mid-email and went to take a call. The laptop went to sleep, but when I nudged it to wake up because I needed to check something for work, a group chat was open. It was with the guys. I was about to close it, but I saw my name in a message preview. I know I shouldn't have read it, but I did. And what I read completely broke me. Apparently, before the trip, they'd made some kind of loyalty bet. A literal bet about me. It started as a joke, according to them, but they'd bet Matt $500 that I'd never flirt with another man, even under pressure, that I was too uptight and too loyal. Matt, being the charming asshole he is, took the bet and agreed. To test me, they concocted this idea that during the trip, Dave's younger cousin Brandon would show up unexpectedly. Brandon is 27, objectively attractive, and they figured he could flirt with me at a future gathering and see how I'd react. I wasn't even supposed to know the plan. It was a whole setup. I read messages where Matt literally said, "She's loyal as hell, but not immune. All women crack eventually." They egged each other on with disgusting remarks, joking about how even good girls cheat if you push the right buttons. I felt like an animal in a science experiment. What hurt the most? Matt saying, "I bet if he corners her drunk, she'll at least flirt back. She's been bored lately." Bored? I thought we were happy. I cooked for him, supported his career changes, massaged his back after work. Bored? After I saw the messages, I felt sick. I took screenshots of the entire conversation and emailed it to myself. I didn't confront him right away. I wanted to scream, throw things, leave. But instead, I did something cold and calculated. Something I regret, but also don't. Brandon did show up 2 weeks later, as planned. We were at Eli's birthday party. Backyard BBQ, beer, music. I played dumb, smiled, chatted with Brandon when he approached. He was flirty, just as they expected. Normally I would have shut it down politely, but this time I leaned in, smiled more, touched his arm. I gave Matt a show. I wanted him to see me crack, and then I wanted to shatter. Later that night, after we got home, Matt joked about how Brandon seemed into me. I laughed, said I was going out for drinks with a girlfriend the next night. He didn't ask questions. That next evening, I met Brandon at a hotel. I won't give you the graphic details, but yes, we slept together. It was mechanical, angry. I didn't enjoy it. I wasn't attracted to him. It was revenge, plain and simple. I felt nothing but hollow satisfaction. I got up right after, showered, blocked Brandon on everything, and went home. I didn't tell Matt right away, but I started to act different, distant, cold. A week later, I asked him casually if he'd won the bet. He froze, played dumb. I showed him the screenshots. His face went pale. He tried to laugh it off. "It was just a joke, babe. We weren't serious." But I told him I knew about Brandon, about the plan, everything. I told him I knew he didn't believe in me, that he'd gambled on my loyalty, that he'd humiliated me for sport. And then I told him I slept with Brandon. He completely lost it, screamed at me, called me disgusting, a slut, said I'd proven him right, that all women are the same. He packed a bag and left to stay with his brother. Now it's been 3 weeks. We haven't talked, except through a couple of dry texts about bills and rent. I told a few close friends what happened. Some are horrified at him, others think I crossed the line. That cheating is never justified, no matter what. And maybe they're right. I broke our vows. I let anger rule me. I stepped into the same gutter he dragged me into. But at the same time, he set me up. He bet on my failure. He orchestrated a situation to test me like I was a lab rat. That betrayal cut so deep I felt like I wasn't even a person to him anymore. Just an experiment to win money over. So, am I the a-hole? Update: I didn't expect this post to blow up, and honestly I'm overwhelmed by the comments, messages, and DMs. Thank you to everyone who weighed in, even if your take was harsh. I read everything. I want to address a few things people brought up. Why didn't you just leave instead of cheating? Yes, you're right. That would have been the high road. But I was angry, devastated. I wanted him to feel what I felt. I know that doesn't justify it, but that was my emotional state. You used Brandon? I did. And I've actually tried to reach out to apologize, though I'm not sure if he'll respond. He was a pawn in Matt's game too, but he didn't. Deserved to be dragged deeper into this. Matt is emotionally abusive. I'm starting to think so too. Seeing all the comments describing the manipulative behavior, gaslighting, objectifying, controlling, it's helping me see things I ignored for years. The way he always tried to test me in little ways. The backhanded compliments, the guilt-tripping when I spent time with friends. It's all clearer now. Are you going to stay with him? No. I've already spoken to a divorce attorney. The papers will be served next week. I'm done. Not just because of the cheating, but because I realized he never respected me. He never saw me as an equal, just someone to manage and manipulate. You both suck. Fair. I can't argue that. This relationship became toxic on both ends, and I became someone I didn't recognize. I don't want to live in this cycle anymore. I'm going to start therapy. I want to understand why I reacted the way I did and how to avoid repeating these mistakes. I've lost something fundamental in this experience, my sense of trust, my sense of self, but I'm trying to rebuild. Thanks again for reading. Even the harsh truths were necessary. Am I the a-hole for wanting to rebuild bridges after burning them down? I've never been one to shy away from difficult situations, but I find myself utterly lost and confused in this one. I'm hoping sharing my story will help clarify not just my own feelings, but whether I'm at fault here. My name is Jake, I'm 29, and like many people, I've had a whirlwind of a year. It started with the pandemic, of course, completely shaking up my life in ways I never anticipated. Prior to COVID, I was just a regular guy working as a graphic designer for a small firm in Austin, Texas. I loved my job, my friends, and my routine. But when everything changed in early 2020, I suddenly found myself wrestling with isolation, anxiety, and a cascade of other personal problems. This is when I turned to Reddit, seeking solace and connection through myriad threads. I found communities that were supportive and offered a sense of normalcy in an otherwise chaotic reality. But as the months rolled on, I also found myself engulfed in much darker topics, primarily around mental health issues. I began sharing my struggles, and while some comments were filled with warmth and solidarity, others cut deep. The tensions with my close-knit group of friends began around that time. I had a friend, Letitia, who was the de facto leader of our circle. She had an infectious personality and was often the glue that held us all together. But like many of my other friendships, 2020 threw us into a discordant state. Letitia believed in the power of positivity and often posted motivational quotes, encouraging all of us to stay upbeat during the uncertain times. I, on the other hand, was spiraling into a dark pit. I wasn't ready to pretend that everything was okay when it clearly wasn't. One evening, I decided to vent my frustrations on our group chat, a space previously filled with jokes and memes. Instead, I got brutally honest about how I felt, like the world was collapsing around me, and that positive platitudes didn't soothe the existential dread. I mentioned that Letitia's insistence on staying positive felt dismissive, and rather then inspire me, it made me feel worse, like I was failing at something simple. I know now that this was a massive breach of etiquette in our friendship, and it set into motion a series of events I couldn't have foreseen. Letitia didn't take my words well. In fact, she exploded. My chat notifications went crazy, and what followed was a flurry of messages that singled me out for being negative, amid a time when everyone was trying to uplift each other. Her remarks were cutting, painting me as a downer and a drain on our friendship. I realized quickly that I'd inadvertently turned the group's compassionate energy against myself. It was raw, emotional, and humiliating. At first, I was furious. At Letitia, she had a talent for broadcasting her hurtful critiques with a theatrical flair that made it seem as though she was addressing the collective group when all the shots were aimed at me. I felt alienated and hurt, and in a moment of impulse, I decided to leave the group. I thought we could reconnect later, but I didn't realize how much this would escalate. In the weeks that followed, my mental state worsened. I stopped reaching out for support, thinking I had burned the only bridge I could cross. Days turned into nights as dark thoughts wrapped around my mind like a thick blanket. Eventually, I realized I couldn't keep avoiding Letitia or the rest of my friends. I left a message via DMs and tried to explain myself, but my apologies fell flat. She felt my venting had damaged our friendships beyond repair. I was met with silence. Seeking to clear my conscience, I reached out one more time a few months later. I proposed a meetup, wanting to make amends, but her reply was strictly reserved. "I just don't feel like we can't go back to what we had," she said. "It feels like you want me to fix you, but I'm not your therapist." This stung, and I couldn't shake the embarrassment of putting myself out there like that. Fast. Forward to 6 months later, I finally made significant strides in my mental health. Therapy helped me unpack my emotions deeply, and as my depression began to lift, I started wanting to repair the relationships I had taken for granted. I missed the camaraderie, the group hangouts, the small things that once sparked joy. I thought carefully about how to approach the situation and decided to throw a small dinner party, inviting Letitia and the other friends from our group. I marked it in my calendar, planned the menu, and even made sure to include Letitia's favorite dish. My therapist would argue that this was proactivity for my well-being, a way to bridge the gap. When I texted Letitia, part of me expected apprehension, perhaps even an indignant refusal to join. But instead, I was met with a neutrality that gave me hope. She replied, "Yeah, I'll come. It might be weird, but let's see how it goes." As the dinner date approached, I meticulously prepared. I bought wine, crafted a playlist, and even tried my hand at baking cupcakes. The day came, and the atmosphere hummed with nervous energy. When the doorbell rang, I held my breath, swinging open the door to greet Letitia and other friends, Amanda and Simon, who tagged along. I welcomed them in and made small talk as I finished up the meal. The kitchen filled with laughter, clinking glasses, and the comforting scent of roasted chicken. But soon, amidst the laughter, I sensed the undercurrent of unresolved tension, especially from Letitia. Every time I glanced her way, I caught her, eyeline shifting away from me. I knew I needed to address the elephant in the room. After dinner, once we moved to the living room, I took the plunge. "I want to apologize for what happened last year. I was in a bad place and didn't communicate well. Losing you all has been incredibly difficult for me." I watched her expression harden, but I pressed forward. "I understand if you're upset, and I respect your feelings. I just hoped we could discuss it." For the next few minutes, the room stood still, the air heavy with unspoken words. Letitia eventually exhaled, "Look, I appreciate that you want to apologize, and I get it. Everyone had a rough year. But you made me feel like I was the villain for trying to uplift our group when we needed it the most. Not a villain, just someone I wasn't ready to appreciate as a friend back then," I replied, searching for the right words. It felt like a personal attack. I wasn't coping well, and your approach stung. We exchanged heartfelt words, gradually stripping away our defenses. I listened intently to her grievances about feeling unappreciated and how they compounded her own struggles during lockdown. As we talked, I finally felt the distance between us start to lessen. Towards the end of the evening, we shared laughter over memories we'd gathered together before the fallout. I could see hints of Letitia's old self glowing through, and it filled me with hope. She raised a glass, an olive branch, or a truce, I wasn't sure, and I followed suit. The evening concluded with an air of tentative resolution. I walked Letitia to the door, and before she stepped onto her porch, she turned back and said, "This was good, Jake. I'm willing to work through things if you are." My heart soared at the prospect of rebuilding. That night, I reflected on everything that had unfolded, wondering if I had done enough to repair things or whether I was just grasping at nothing. It dawned on me that relationships are complicated yet fragile vines, often needing patience and effort to mend. In the days that followed, I continued reaching out to my friends. It wasn't an overnight fix, but I felt a weight lift off my shoulders. I understood that we were stepping into a new chapter, but it was progress, and that meant everything. So, Eite, I'm curious about what everyone thinks. Was I justified in trying to reconnect, or should I have left things as they were? I'm still figuring out my role in this friendship dynamic. It's clear that my actions affected others, but all I wanted was to take responsibility and see if a new chapter could blossom. For trying to help my sister and her fiancé plan their wedding? I never thought I'd find myself typing out my life's biggest dilemma in an AETIA subreddit, but here I am, sitting in my cramped apartment with my laptop on my knee, curled into a corner of my couch, and wrestling with a heavy heart. I'm 28 years old, and my life has always revolved around family, until recently, that is. To set the scene, my sister Emily is getting married in 6 months. She's the eldest, a hyper-organized planner with a vivacious spirit that fills any room she enters. We've been close for as long as I can remember, sharing secrets, dreams, and even tears over lost loves. But things between us have been strained lately, and I can't help but wonder if I've crossed a line I shouldn't have. Now, her fiancé Mark is a good guy, very laid back. He balances Emily's intense energy well. They complement each other beautifully. However, the wedding planning has been a different story. Emily has taken on the brunt of the responsibility, and now she's spiraling. I get it. Weddings can bring out the worst in people. I've watched her go from a beaming bride-to-be to someone who can't enjoy the process because she's too busy worrying about every little detail. Recently, she confessed to me in tears that she feels immense pressure to create this perfect day, and no matter how hard she tries, nothing seems to align. As I sat there, I had this surge of determination. It hit me that I could help. I work in event management, and I thought my knowledge could lighten her load. Emily hesitated at first, still clinging to the idea that this wedding was her job to manage, but in a moment of vulnerability, the tears rolled down her cheeks, and she finally agreed. I was elated to take a more active role in making her dream day a reality. That's when all hell broke loose. I remember it vividly. A few days after our conversation, I invited her and Mark over for a planning session. I pulled out my notebook filled with timelines, vendor lists, and budget calculators designed to break things down step by step. I was ready to dive in. To my surprise, Mark seemed a bit off. He was distracted, on his phone more than usual, and when I tried to engage him in the conversation, he would nod but quickly withdraw. I brushed aside my concerns, focusing instead on Emily's reactions. She seemed relieved, even if Mark did appear distant. We went through everything, from venues to catering to invitations. It was energizing to see Emily happy again, even if Mark's brow was furrowed the entire time. After a few hours of planning, we wrapped up, and I felt proud of the groundwork we laid. I saw a glimmer of hope returning in Emily's eyes, the sparkle that had dulled for months. But the next day, Mark called me. He wanted to meet in person. When we sat down in my favorite cafe, he cut straight to the chase. "Listen, I appreciate what you're trying to do, but I think you need to step back," he said, creating a sense of tension in a space I had considered my safe haven. I felt the heat rise to my face. "What do you mean? I'm just trying to help." Emily was overwhelmed and— "Exactly. She's overwhelmed," Mark interrupted. "The wedding is supposed to be fun, and now it feels like a project with you involved. I was taken aback. But she said she wanted my help. Did she really? Or did you just assume? Look, I care about Emily, and I want to take care of whatever she needs. Just let us handle this, okay? For the first time, I sensed a rift forming, not just between me and Mark, but something that threatened to pull me away from Emily last. I felt frustrated and hurt. I didn't want to believe that my intentions could be so easily misread. When I later confronted Emily about what Mark had said, her face scrunched in confusion. I didn't mean to imply I didn't want your help. I thought you were in my corner! After several days went by, there was a noticeable shift in our interactions, an elephant in the room that loomed larger with every shared coffee or dinner. I felt like an intruder in her life. During this time, Emily informed me that Mark was adamant about taking charge of the wedding planning from here on out. I was devastated. This was the one moment I wanted to be involved in her life, the one creative project born from love and joy, and I felt like I was being shut out. For days, I grappled with my emotions. I questioned whether Mark was just being protective or whether he had other intentions, whether he thought I was overstepping or if he genuinely believed he could do this alone. Were my planning skills unwelcome, or was I just staying too close? To my sister? Feeling isolated, I took to Reddit. I already suggested my dilemma as soon as I registered my account, drafting it carefully to convey my side without any inclination of bias. I posted, "Aita for trying to help my sister with her wedding planning." People responded just as expected, dividing into camps. Some congratulated me on wanting to help, echoing my sentiments about family. Others, however, believed I was overstepping boundaries, meddling in someone else's relationship. As the days went by, I obsessively checked my comments, hoping for clarity or a different perspective. It was consuming me, and I began considering my next move. Should I step back altogether and give them the space? Maybe even ghost this whole wedding situation? The thought was painful. It felt like abandoning Emily when I could offer so much. Finally, I reached a resolution. I would send Emily a message, outlining my feelings honestly without any pressure. I wanted her to know that I would be there, whenever she needed me, but I understood the importance of Mark taking charge. Simultaneously, I wove in my fears of losing my place in her life, my anxiety that this new chapter meant she would drift away. When I hit send, my heart raced. I dreaded the idea of her being upset, but realized this was my chance to lay everything bare. It was up to her to decide where we would go from here. The next day, Emily replied almost immediately. We agreed to meet at the same cafe where Mark had approached me. As I walked inside, I saw her sitting at our usual booth, her hands wrapped around a steaming cup of tea. The sight brought a lump to my throat. "I got your message," she began, glancing down at her drink. I felt my stomach twist into knots, and I didn't realize how much I'd pushed you away. I was in my own bubble, struggling to figure things out. Then when you showed up with all those ideas, I didn't want to hurt you by rejecting your help. Mark just... She trailed off, biting her lip. I took a deep breath. I get it. I really do. I just wanted to lighten your load. I want to be a part of this, especially knowing what it meant to you. Her expression softened. I think I just got too caught up in my expectations, with my mom constantly telling me how weddings should be and feeling judged by everyone around me. I didn't know how to showcase what I really wanted. It was at that moment when I realized just how challenging it was to remain authentic in the face of societal expectations. As emotions swirled through her eyes, I could see my sister was not just going through a phase of wedding planning. She was navigating the complexities of becoming a wife, of balancing dreams with realities. "I don't want you to think I don't want you involved," Emily continued, her voice barely above a whisper. "I would love your help. Just maybe not in the way I originally thought." I nodded, my heart swelling with relief. "You tell me what you need, and I'll be there. I'm not just here for the wedding. I'm here for you." With tears glistening in her eyes, she reached out and squeezed my hand tightly. "Thank you," came out softly, but I felt the weight of her gratitude resonate deeply. This moment marked a shift back toward our bond, a reminder that family can endure through the toughest times, as long as we communicate and show up for each other, no matter how dense the fog might seem. As we left that cafe, I felt lighter, knowing she was there beside me, back in the comforting embrace of sisterhood again. From that day forward, we navigated the wedding planning side by side, learning what it meant to truly collaborate as a family, united against the many pressures of life. I can't articulate the sense of peace that washed over me. It wasn't just about the wedding anymore. It was about reconnecting, rebuilding that trust, and safeguarding the unconditional bond that made us sisters. And so, with a deep breath, I realized this chapter, the one we wrote together, was the most beautiful of all. Am I the a-hole for exposing my husband's double life that included another wife, a hidden child, and years of manipulation? I'm still shaking as I write this, struggling to make sense of a nightmare I never imagined could be real. I'm 33F, married to Jason, 36M, for 9 years. We have 3 kids and a perfect life from the outside. Until I uncovered the unbearable truth, Jason had another family, a wife, a child, living a completely separate life in another state for 6 years. The discovery didn't come from chance or suspicion, but from a woman calling me crying, begging me to stop Jason before he destroyed everything. The fallout was catastrophic. My marriage is over, my children are traumatized, and I'm left trying to pick up the pieces of a life I thought I knew. But now I'm haunted by one question. Am I the a-hole for tearing down his life publicly and exposing everything, knowing it would hurt both families? Jason and I met in college and quickly fell in love. We married 2 years after graduating and started a family soon after. From the outside, our life looked perfect. Stable jobs, a beautiful home, happy kids. But cracks started to show after 5 years. Jason began disappearing for hours without explanation, becoming secretive with his phone and social media. He dismissed my questions and accusations, accusing me of paranoia and jealousy. I wanted to believe him. But then I started receiving cryptic texts on his phone from a woman named Maya, full of affectionate nicknames and plans to visit soon. I didn't want to believe it was real, so I tried to ignore it, but my instincts screamed otherwise. One night, I followed him to a nearby city and saw him enter a modest house I'd never heard about. Inside, he was greeted warmly by a woman and a little girl around 4 years old. The shock hit me like a freight train. That night, my entire world collapsed. He wasn't just cheating. He had an entire second family, a wife, Maya, and their daughter Lily, hidden away from me and our kids. When I confronted Jason, his response was chilling. He said he never intended for it to go this far, that he fell in love with Maya but felt trapped in our marriage, unable to leave me because of the kids and financial ties. He admitted to lying for years, juggling 2 families and manipulating both of us to keep the secret. I was devastated but furious. I wanted to protect our children from this toxic web, but I also knew Maya and Lily were innocent victims of his deceit. The next day, Maya reached out to me. She was terrified and heartbroken, unaware of my existence until now. We formed a fragile alliance, agreeing to confront Jason together. I told my family and close friends, and the news spread like wildfire. Jason's parents disowned him, and our families fractured under the weight of betrayal. I filed for divorce, determined to shield my kids from his lies. Maya did the same, fighting for custody of Lily. The fallout wasn't just emotional, it was legal and financial warfare. Jason tried to play the victim, spinning stories to gain sympathy, but no one believed him anymore. The media caught wind of the scandal after a family friend leaked details, and we became the subject of intense public scrutiny. I watched as Jason's reputation crumbled, and Maya struggled to rebuild her life alone. Months later, the damage is still unfolding. Our children are confused and traumatized, therapy sessions a regular part of life. Maya and I maintain contact for the kids' sake, trying to forge some kind of peace. Jason is alone, facing the ruins of the life he built on lies. I sometimes wonder if I was too harsh, if exposing everything publicly was the right choice. Could I have handled it more discreetly, or was ripping off the bandage the only way to protect everyone involved? I'm haunted by guilt and anger in equal measure. So, Reddit, am I the a-hole for tearing down my husband's double life, destroying his reputation, and exposing both families to public shame? Could I have acted differently, or was this inevitable once the truth came out? Am I the a-hole for destroying my fiancé's life after discovering he was leading a double life with another family? I honestly don't know where to begin because this entire nightmare feels like it's been ripped from a twisted drama. I'm 28F, and my fiancé, Tom 30M, was the man I thought I'd spend the rest of my life with. We'd been together for 6 years, engaged for 2. Everyone around us said we were perfect for each other, compatible, loving, dependable. I was convinced of it too, right until the moment I found out he'd been living a secret double life. For 4 years. And not just any double life. He had another family, wife, 2 kids, a completely separate life in a different city. The worst part is I didn't find out by accident or through snooping. It came from a stranger who called me in tears begging me to stop him before it destroyed them all. Tom grew up in a small town while I'm from a big city. We met in college and he moved to live with me shortly after graduation. His story about his family issues was always vague. He said his parents divorced early and he barely talked to his dad. I never pressed. We built a life together. Bought a condo, adopted a dog, planned our wedding. I trusted him completely. But last winter I started noticing odd things. Missed calls from unknown numbers, secretive texts, late nights working. I chalked it up to work stress. Then one night he came home smelling like perfume, a scent I never recognized. When I asked, he said it was from a client he'd been meeting for work. The first red flag. The next was when I found a receipt for a hotel 2 hours away dated last weekend. When I confronted him, he gave a rehearsed excuse about a conference and insisted I was being paranoid. That night, I decided to check his phone, an act I swore I'd never commit. But what I found was worse than any nightmare. A collection of texts, photos, messages from a woman named Sarah, a name I never heard. There were pictures of a woman and 2 children, a family, a life that wasn't mine. He called her wife, my love, my home. The messages were dated for 4 years, overlapping every single day we were together. I was shattered. I called the number from a text and reached a woman's voice. I asked if she was Sarah, and she broke down crying. She told me Tom had never told her about me, but she'd suspected something for a while because he was often unreachable. She begged me not to let him hurt their kids. I told her I had to know everything. Over the next days, she told me about her life. A marriage. That was more of a convenience. 2 children he doted on. Bills he helped pay. She never suspected he was engaged to another woman, which made me sick. I realized he was living 2 lives, 2 different families, and neither of us knew about the other. I confronted Tom the next morning. His face went pale when I showed him the photos, the texts, and told him about Sarah calling me. He tried to deny it, then begged for forgiveness, saying he was confused, trapped, and didn't want to hurt either of us. He claimed the second family was a mistake, but he was too afraid to leave. I told him I wanted him out of my life. I blocked his number and changed the locks. But the nightmare was just beginning. Sarah called me the day after the confrontation, begging me to help her protect the kids from the fallout. She was terrified Tom would leave her destitute and that their kids would suffer. We formed a fragile alliance. 2 women betrayed, 2 families shattered. We agreed to tell our families together to stop him from playing one of us against the other. When we finally told our families, the fallout was catastrophic. Tom's parents disowned him. Both our families were devastated, confused, and angry. Some accused me of breaking up a family, others said Sarah was complicit. The media even caught wind after a nosy relative leaked the story to a local newspaper. It went viral. I became a pariah. People called me cruel, vengeful, and worse. Sarah got a restraining order against Tom to protect her kids. Meanwhile, he tried to worm his way back, begging for sympathy, but no one would listen. I'm living alone now, my wedding and future erased in a single moment. I still check the news for updates on his second family. Sometimes I think about reaching out to Sarah and the kids, but I'm afraid of reopening wounds. I miss the man I thought I knew, but I despise the man he revealed himself to be. So I ask you, am I the a-hole for tearing his life apart after discovering his betrayal? Could I have handled this differently, or did I do what anyone in my place would do? After the initial storm of revelations and public exposure, my life became a chaotic whirlwind of emotions, legal battles, and shattered relationships that I could never have anticipated. The immediate aftermath was worse than I imagined. Friends and family took sides, many shocked at Jenna's duplicity, others whispering that I should have known better or that I was too sick to be a good husband, somehow twisting the blame onto me. The community gossip circle swelled with every detail, and with social media blowing the story up beyond anything I could have controlled, privacy became a luxury I lost overnight. Jenna, meanwhile, vanished from our home and social circles like a ghost only occasionally resurfacing to drop a bombshell or deny any responsibility for the mess. I learned from mutual friends that she had moved in with Liam, fully embracing this new life, and had started ignoring texts and calls from me altogether. The secret daughter, Sophie, whom she never once tried to integrate into our family life, became a symbol of her betrayal that hurt deeper than anything else. The knowledge that for 2 whole years she lived a double existence, carrying a child in secret, while I battled health issues and raised our 2 other children alone, was a bitter pill that still lodged in my throat. Custody became a battlefield of legal fees and harsh words. Jenna's lawyers pushed back hard, claiming that I was an unfit parent due to my illness and emotional state, painting me as unstable and obsessed with revenge. I had to fight tooth and nail to secure even basic visitation rights with my own kids. The courts were sympathetic to my condition, but wary of the chaotic family dynamics. The secret child Sophie was a whole other mess. Legally, I had no claim, but emotionally I felt torn. How could I reconcile the idea that the woman I loved was living a parallel life with a child she deliberately kept from me? Every day was a struggle to maintain some semblance of normalcy. For my children, especially our eldest, who started acting out in school and withdrawing from friends. Therapy sessions became mandatory, yet even professional help could barely fill the void left by Jenna's absence and the trauma of betrayal. I tried to be strong for them, to hold our fractured family together, but inside I was a shell of the man I used to be, haunted by nightmares of what could have been and what was irreparably lost. Through it all, I questioned myself constantly. Did I fail as a husband? Could I have prevented this by being more present, more attentive? Was I wrong to publicly expose Jenna's double life instead of handling it privately? Some nights the guilt weighed so heavily I wanted to disappear, but my kids needed me. The community's judgment was a constant undercurrent. Some whispered that my public post was cruel, a humiliation Jenna didn't deserve, but I felt I owed it to myself and my children to unmask the truth. Silence felt like complicity, and living a lie felt like death. In the months following, Jenna attempted to reach out a few times, but it was clear her priorities had shifted completely. She seemed indifferent to the family we once had, focused solely on the life with Liam and Sophie. The emotional distance was a wall I couldn't breach, no matter how much I wanted to salvage something from the wreckage. Looking back, I am left with a landscape of loss, of love, trust, family, and the life I thought I built. Yet amidst the ruins, I am slowly learning to rebuild, to find strength in vulnerability and truth in pain. I don't know if forgiveness is possible or even if I want it, but I am determined to fight for my children and my own peace of mind. So, Reddit, after all this, am I still the a-hole for exposing Jenna's lies? Was my choice an act of desperation and self-preservation, or did I cross a line that made the situation worse? I'm sharing this because I need to understand if I'm alone in this or if others have walked this brutal path too. Am I the a-hole for publicly exposing my wife's secret double life and her years of cheating while I was struggling with health issues? For years I thought I knew my wife, Jenna, 35F, better than anyone else. I'm Mark, 37 mem. We were married for 8 years with 2 kids, and I thought we had a pretty solid marriage, at least on the surface. We had our fights like any couple, but I believed we had a foundation of love and trust. What I didn't know was that behind my back, Jenna was living a completely different life, one that destroyed everything I thought we had. I'm writing this now after everything blew up in the worst way possible, and I can't help but wonder, am I the a-hole for the way I exposed her, for the chaos I unleashed in our family and community? I want to share my side in as much detail as I can because it's not the simple cheating story most people expect. It's a tangled mess of lies, secrets, sickness, and betrayal that left me broken. Our story started pretty typically. Jenna and I met at university, fell in love, and got married a couple of years after graduating. We had 2 kids in the first. 4 years of marriage. Around the time our second child was born, I started having serious health problems. I was diagnosed with a chronic illness that left me fatigued, often bedridden, and unable to work full-time anymore. Jenna became our primary breadwinner, juggling her demanding career with motherhood and caring for me. At first, I was grateful for her strength and sacrifice, and she seemed genuinely supportive. But over time, something changed. She started acting distant, more secretive, and emotionally unavailable. I tried to hold the family together the best I could while struggling with my health. I couldn't work like before, but I took care of the kids, handled the house, and made sure Jenna could focus on her career. But I noticed her coming home late, her phone always locked or on silent, and a new kind of coldness in her eyes. I asked her several times if something was wrong or if she needed help, but she always said everything was fine, just tired from work. My gut told me otherwise, but I was too sick and fragile to confront her head on. I tried to trust her, to believe she was doing her best for us. One night, after Jenna fell asleep, I found myself wide awake and restless. Her phone was on the kitchen counter, unlocked. She'd forgotten it. Curiosity and fear twisted inside me, and despite knowing I shouldn't, I started scrolling through her messages. What I found shattered my world. Jenna had been carrying on a secret affair for over 5 years with a man named Liam, a colleague at her work. But it wasn't just a fling, it was a full-on double life. She was seeing him regularly, hiding entire weekends, planning trips, and telling him things she never said to me. Worse, she had been lying to friends and family, portraying our marriage as perfect, while she was building a separate relationship that she intended to keep secret indefinitely. The messages revealed things I never imagined. Jenna spoke about how she resented me for my illness, for how it changed our lives. She said she felt trapped, suffocated, and miserable. She called me weak behind my back and expressed envy for Liam's freedom and energy. The betrayal cut deeper than I thought possible, but the worst was yet to come. I dug deeper and discovered photos, private, intimate photos of Jenna and Liam, including one of them holding a baby. A baby? Confused and terrified, I found a few other messages mentioning our daughter, a little girl named Sophie, whom Jenna had never once mentioned to me or anyone in my family. According to the messages, Sophie was now 2 years old. Jenna had been living with this secret child, with Liam as the father, while I was struggling at home with our own kids, battling sickness, and trying to keep our family afloat. I confronted Jenna the next morning, evidence in hand. She didn't deny anything. She told me coldly that she fell out of love with me years ago and that Liam was the only person who made her feel alive. She said the illness had killed the man she married and that she was happy now. The way she said it, so detached, like she was discussing a job she quit, broke something inside me I can't put into words. I asked why she never told me about Sophie, about Liam, or how she could hide such a huge part of her life. She shrugged and said, because I knew you'd never understand or accept it. I spent days in a daze. The house, the kids, everything felt unreal. My friends and family didn't know what to say. Jenna stayed out late, sometimes overnight, and ignored my messages and calls. She was living her double life openly now, refusing. To discuss our marriage or family, I was left to pick up the pieces for our children and myself. Then came the breaking point. I decided to expose everything publicly. I created a detailed post on social media laying out the entire truth. Jenna's affair, the secret child, her lies, and how she abandoned me during my illness. I included screenshots, dates, and a timeline. It was brutal, but cathartic. I wanted the world to know the real Jenna, to hold her accountable for what she'd done. The post went viral in our community and among friends and family. Some were shocked, others angry, and a few supported me. The fallout was immediate and intense. Jenna's career imploded as her employer launched an investigation after the news spread. Liam disappeared, cutting off all contact with Jenna and Sophie. Friends and family were divided. Some blamed Jenna, others pitied her, and a few even blamed me for publicly shaming her. Our children suffered. Our oldest started acting out, and the youngest withdrew emotionally. Therapy became a necessity, but even that couldn't erase the damage. Jenna moved out, leaving me to manage custody battles, emotional trauma, and the daily grind of parenting alone. She rarely showed up for the kids and refused to engage in any co-parenting efforts. The secret child, Sophie, remains a complicated issue. Jenna insisted I have no rights or relationship with her, claiming she's not my daughter. It's a legal and emotional nightmare I'm still fighting. Looking back, some say I should have handled it more quietly, tried couples therapy, or kept the secret for the sake of the kids. But I was exhausted, betrayed, and sick. The weight of Jenna's lies crushed me. Exposing her felt like the only way to protect myself and my children from further deception. I don't regret revealing the truth, but I'm haunted by the destruction it caused. So, Reddit, am I the a-hole for publicly exposing my wife's secret double life and all the devastation it caused? Should I have kept this private, or was I justified in seeking truth and justice? I'm torn, broken, and just trying to survive. Am I the a-hole for exposing my husband's secret 8-year affair with his boss and the hidden child he never told me about? I never thought I'd be the person writing this. For 10 years I believed I had a solid marriage with my husband. David, 37M. I'm 34F, we have 2 children, and we built a life that looked happy, stable, and loving from the outside. But all of it turned out to be a meticulously constructed lie. A facade that crumbled to dust the moment I discovered David had been living a double life for 8 years, carrying on an affair with his boss, Emily, and hiding a 3-year-old child from me the entire time. This secret wasn't a mistake or a one-time lapse. It was a carefully guarded existence that destroyed my trust and nearly destroyed me. The fallout has been devastating, not just for me, but for our children, our families, and everyone involved. Now that the truth is out, I am left to wonder, am I the a-hole for exposing him and tearing apart the life we built? Could I have handled this differently, or was this the only way forward? We met through friends in college, and I fell hard for David's charm, ambition, and charisma. We were young but deeply in love, and after graduation, we quickly married and started building a life together. We bought a house, had 2 children, and for years I thought we were happy. David worked in a competitive corporate world, climbing the ladder and often pulling long hours. I was a stay-at-home mom, balancing raising our kids and managing the household. Life was busy, exhausting, but good. At least, that's how it looked on the surface. It started subtly, years into our marriage. David began coming home later and later, citing work emergencies and deadlines. His phone was always on silent or face down, a new habit that didn't sit right with me. He became emotionally distant, distracted, and irritable. I asked him repeatedly what was wrong, but he shrugged it off as stress. I tried to be supportive, thinking maybe the pressure of his job was getting to him. But then the little things started piling up: unexplained absences, secretive texts, quick deletions when I entered the room. My gut twisted tighter and tighter, but I convinced myself I was overreacting. I didn't want to suspect the man I loved. The breaking point came one evening when I was looking for a document on his laptop and stumbled upon an unopened voicemail from a number I didn't recognize. Emily, his boss. I hesitated, but then found months of emails between them, full of affectionate language, secret plans, and references to a little miracle. It was like a bomb exploded inside me. I couldn't breathe. I stared at the screen, rereading the messages over and over, desperate to make sense of what I was seeing. They had been carrying on an affair for 8 years, and even worse, Emily had given birth to a child 3 years ago, a child David never mentioned, never acknowledged. The sheer scale of his betrayal felt impossible to comprehend. I confronted David the next day, evidence laid bare on the kitchen table. He didn't deny it. Instead, he broke down in tears and tried to explain. He told me he felt trapped, that our marriage was suffocating, and that Emily had given him a freedom and connection he hadn't felt in years. He claimed he never planned for it to go on so long, but once he had a child, he was too scared to leave either family. He said he wanted to keep both lives because he loved both of us in different ways. I was shattered, feeling like I'd been living in a parallel universe, the innocent one who was betrayed in the worst possible way. For days I was paralyzed with shock and confusion. I tried talking to David to understand how he could live such a double life. He tried to apologize, to convince me he could fix this, that we could get through it. But the trust was gone, replaced by a gnawing hatred and disbelief. I felt utterly alone. It was then that Emily reached out to me. I had hesitated to contact her, but found myself needing answers, a connection with someone else who had been deceived. Our first conversation was raw and painful. Emily was just as blindsided as I was. David had told her he was single, that he was planning to leave his family, that I didn't exist. She had been left to raise their daughter, Lily, on her own, struggling financially and emotionally, while David vanished between two worlds. We cried together over the phone, sharing the devastation of being used and lied to. Emily and I decided to meet in person. It was surreal to sit across from the woman who had unknowingly shared my husband for nearly a decade. We were cautious but connected by shared pain. We talked about the children, about the lies, and about what to do next. We agreed that David needed to face the consequences and that hiding the truth any longer would only hurt everyone more. I told my closest family and friends what had happened, and the news spread fast. David's parents were horrified, feeling betrayed by their son. My own family was devastated but stood by me. Friends took sides, some disappearing altogether. The divorce process began amid bitter arguments over custody and finances. David's company soon learned of the scandal, and his career, built over years of hard work, crumbled as colleagues distanced themselves and the media descended. The public exposure was brutal. A family friend leaked details to the press, and suddenly my private nightmare was splashed across headlines. I hated the intrusion, but also felt it was a necessary evil. Keeping the secret would have destroyed me from within. Our children are suffering. The youngest asks why Daddy isn't home anymore. The oldest is angry and withdrawn. Therapy has become a lifeline for all of us. I sometimes feel guilty for tearing apart the family, but I also know that living a lie would have been worse. The damage David caused will take years to heal. Emily and I remain in contact for the sake of our kids. We try to build a fragile alliance out of tragedy, supporting each other through the pain. David, meanwhile, is isolated, bitter, and broken. He lost everything because of his lies. Looking back, I wonder if I should have handled things differently. Could I have found a quieter way to protect my children and myself? Or was this all inevitable once the truth was revealed? I'm haunted by questions and guilt, but I know one thing. I am no longer willing to be the victim of his betrayal. So Reddit, am I the a-hole for exposing my husband's secret life and destroying what we had? Did I go too far? Or was this the only way to reclaim my life and protect my children from further harm? Am I the a-hole for ruining my husband's life after uncovering his 7-year secret affair and a hidden child? I'm writing this while sitting in my empty living room, watching the last boxes get packed into the moving van. The silence is deafening, and yet it feels like the loudest scream of my life. I, 35F, never imagined that the man I married and built a family with, my husband Mark, 38M, could be capable of the lies that shattered me into a million pieces. We were together for 12 years, married for 8, and I thought we had something real. We have 2 children together, and I thought we had a happy life. That was until the day I found out Mark had been living a secret second life for the past 7 years, including a long-term affair and a child he never told me about. The betrayal cut deeper than I ever thought possible, and what happened next destroyed everything. Mark and I met in college, and our relationship quickly became the center of my universe. We moved in together after graduation, got engaged within 2 years, and married in a small ceremony surrounded by close family and friends. From the outside, we looked perfect, strong, supportive, loving. He was the man I trusted with my whole heart. But beneath that perfect facade was a darkness I never saw. We struggled over the years with work stress, raising our kids, and the usual bumps of life, but nothing prepared me for the gut punch I got when I discovered his secret. About 3 months ago, I started noticing strange behavior. Mark was constantly on his phone, guarding it obsessively, sneaking out late at night, and lying about his whereabouts. I tried to ignore it, thinking I was just stressed or imagining things, but my gut told me otherwise. One night I found a receipt for a hotel in a city 2 hours away. I confronted him, and he brushed it off as a business trip. But the anxiety wouldn't leave me. I began to quietly gather pieces of the puzzle: secret social media accounts, hidden text messages, and glimpses of conversations that spoke of a woman named Elena and a child. My world began to unravel. I couldn't keep the suspicion to myself any longer. I snooped through his phone and found pages of messages filled with love, promises, and plans, none of which involved me. The messages revealed a 7-year affair with Elena, a woman I had never met, and a secret child, a daughter who was now 5 years old. The realization was staggering. The man I loved had built an entire parallel family while living under my roof, playing the role of the devoted husband and father to our children. I felt betrayed beyond belief, humiliated and broken. The next day I confronted Mark with the evidence. At first he denied everything, but the truth spilled out after hours of pleading and shouting. He claimed he never planned for the affair to last this long, that he fell in love with Elena and felt trapped in our marriage, but was too afraid to leave me or hurt our children. He said he was ashamed and begged for forgiveness, promising to end the affair and be the husband and father I deserved. But how could I trust him again? How could I believe a man who hid a secret life for so long? I didn't want to be the villain in this story, but my anger consumed me. I knew I had to tell Elena about us, about the life he was living with me and our children. I found her contact through Mark's messages and sent a carefully worded message, telling her the truth and warning her about the consequences. She was devastated but grateful. We talked for hours, sharing our pain and confusion. She told me she never knew about me or our children, and that Mark had promised her he was single. Together we decided to confront him. When Mark found out I had contacted Elena, he exploded with rage and begged me to keep things private, fearing the destruction of his reputation and the impact on both families. But I refused. I filed for divorce and took legal action to protect my children. I also told both our families about the affair, which tore them apart. His parents disowned him, and my family was crushed. Friends took sides, and many disappeared. The media caught wind of the scandal after a family friend leaked the story to the press, and our lives were splashed across headlines as a devastating betrayal. Mark's career tanked. Elena struggled to raise their daughter alone, facing judgment and financial hardship. I'm left to pick up the pieces of my shattered life, questioning everything I thought I knew about love and trust. Now, months later, Mark has moved out. Elena and I maintain a cautious friendship for the sake of the children. Our kids are confused and hurt, and the healing process is slow and painful. I sometimes wonder if I destroyed his life out of spite or justice. I wrestle with guilt, anger, and sorrow daily, but I know I can't live a lie anymore. So, Reddit, am I the a-hole for exposing my husband's secret life, ruining his reputation, and tearing apart 2 families? Could I have handled this differently, or did I do what any betrayed spouse would? I don't want to be the villain, but I also can't forgive a betrayal this deep. Am I the a-hole for destroying my husband's life after discovering his 8-year affair with his boss and the secret child he hid from me? I'm writing this while sitting alone in what used to be my family home. I'm 34F, married to David, 37M for 10 years. We have 2 kids together and built what I thought was a stable, happy life. But the illusion shattered when I uncovered a secret that David had buried for 8 years, an ongoing affair with his boss, Emily, and a child from that relationship he never told me about. The way it all came crashing down left me reeling. And I can't stop wondering, am I the a-hole for exposing him and ruining the life we had? David and I met through mutual friends, and everything seemed perfect. He was charming, attentive, and ambitious. We married young, bought a house, and welcomed 2 children. Life was busy but good, until I noticed his increasing distance, late nights at work, and his obsession with his phone. At first I dismissed it as stress, but the secrecy became unbearable. One night I found an unopened voicemail on his phone from Emily's number. Curiosity gnawed at me until I hacked into his email and discovered months of messages between them. Passionate, secretive, planning weekends away, and talking about their little miracle. My world collapsed. David had been lying to me. For 8 years, maintaining a double life with his boss. Worse, they had a 3-year-old child he had hidden from me. When I confronted him, David's reaction was icy and dismissive at first. Then he broke down, confessing that he felt trapped in our marriage, that Emily gave him a freedom and love he thought he lost with me. He begged for forgiveness, promising to end the affair and come clean. But how do you rebuild trust when the foundation was built on lies for almost a decade? I couldn't keep this a secret. I reached out to Emily anonymously at first, then met her. She was devastated but claimed she had no idea I existed, that David told her he was single and that they would leave everything behind for a fresh start. I realized I wasn't the only victim here. The decision to expose David wasn't easy. I told both families, friends, and eventually took legal steps to protect my children. David's career was destroyed once the affair leaked at his workplace. The media swarmed, turning our private pain into public spectacle. Emily struggled with the fallout, alone with their child, facing judgment and financial hardship. My children are confused and hurt. Therapy has become a lifeline. David moved out, bitter and broken. I'm left questioning everything: the man I married, the life I built, and whether I did the right thing by exposing the truth so brutally. So Reddit, am I the a-hole for tearing down my husband's secret life and destroying our family's image? Could I have handled this differently, or was exposing the truth the only way to protect my children and myself?